Ashley Thomas from Amazon Prime's Them. Welcome to the Awards Daily podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I hope you're staying safe.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm staying safe. I'm in London. I'm working at the moment, so being COVID tested regularly, but staying safe, which is the main thing.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. So, Amazon's Them. There's a lot to talk about there. So let's get started.
Yeah.
So, when you first read that screenplay, what was your initial
Mm.
reaction to the material?
Hmm. I was sent the first three episodes, and I was pretty scared actually of the material, just the weight that the piece carried, just being um, a depiction of African American history, which is American history, and uh, just it was an important piece. So I just wanted to make sure that I could do the piece justice. I almost wasn't going to do the audition or the screen test. I was really um I don't know if it was self-sabotage or I was so scared of the piece and just maybe an insecurity within myself, like can I deliver it? Do I have that ability? Do I have those layers um inside of me? And I don't know, maybe before I started, maybe I never had to find those sort of levels. So yeah, reading the script initially was just, yeah, it was, yeah, I was really scared of the piece, to be honest. Rather than saying, yeah, it was amazing. I just wanted to just do it. Like that's not even the truth. Like I was genuinely scared of this piece. And it was I was reading a character that was um a father, husband, loves his family unconditionally, and is a college educated engineer, and is a war veteran, and American, and in the 50s. And it was all these things that, like, essentially I'm not really, and it was a role that I knew I would have to fully transform myself into playing in order to play the character. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I could do that.
So, being a British citizen, and this material is obviously about a black man in black family in the 1950s. What kind of research in America? What kind of research did you do to make sure that you could orient yourself with that mentality and that um, where they were in their cultural and social environment?
That was one of the scary parts of taking on a role like this. And then also the appealing part, right? I watched an interview with Mahershala Ali, and he was talking about the roles that he's scared of are the roles that he runs to. So I took that sort of mindset and then approached the took on this part, auditioned for it, got the role. Um, and the research, it was really about, in order to transform and step outside of myself, it was really about stripping away my ego and approaching the character and the African American experience with complete respect, right? I'm Black, I'm British, and I've got my experiences within the world. And some of that I can use to inform the character, but in the stripping of the ego, understanding that the African American experience is a unique experience, very different to my own. And in order to play this part, I'm going to have to put in incredible amounts of work and bridge the gap in my understanding and speak to my cousins who are African American, my friends who I trust that are African American, who can share their experiences with me to help bridge that gap in my understanding. I had to do a lot of reading. I read a really interesting book called City Limits by Josh Sides, and that was very helpful because it spoke about the Great Migration from the South to Los Angeles, in particular, from the Great Depression to the modern era. So that gave me a real insight into the time, the specificity of the area, the just the stories around individual families, that the piece of a lot of it was real stories that were fed through the Emory family. So that book had some of those real experiences of some of the things that actually happened in them was in the book. Um, and then I spoke to a gentleman that I met. I was lucky enough to meet someone who lived in my building, older gentleman named Jerris, and he was very kind with his time, and he was really wanted to help me um, deliver this part authentically and properly. He was like very gracious, very kind with his time, and he shared a lot of his experiences. He grew up in Texas um, under Jim Crow, and would tell me like a lot of the things that happened to him and the choices that he made in those given scenarios. And that helped me to inform Henry's decisions, choices, thoughts, and I could utilize all the information that I was given from the books, from the documentaries that I was watching, from speaking to Jerris, speaking to my close-knit circle who had the experience, and that helped to essentially bridge the gap in my lack of understanding. And that's how I was able to give that's how I was able to transform and give an interpretation of the character from my perspective.
So I've talked to a lot of actors who,
Mm,
when they are on set, when they are learning a character, they embody that character. It takes a long time for them to shake that character. And, was that different? Was that the experience for you as you were as you were portraying Henry and them? Must have been a difficult thing to sort of get into that shoes, particularly into those shoes, particularly given all of the things that happened to him over the course of the 10 episodes, the beating, practically being hung, all of that
yeah.
stuff. Was that difficult for you to shake that at the end of the day when the camera stopped rolling?
Um, yes, it was. But what I had told myself from the beginning, like what I explained earlier, is that I wanted to do the character justice. So and got rid of my ego. So for me, it wasn't about me. It was
Right.
telling this important story of what has happened to people in my community who look like me, and telling that story authentically so that when everyone watches it, but especially people like me, they say, yeah, that is a real, that's a real reaction. That is how I would react. That's how I feel. That's how my face looks. That's how my body language is. Um, that's the tone that I would use. That's the intensity that I would be. And I've had a lot of people personally reach out to me, like friends and stuff that have watched it in the UK, in France, in America, Canada. People have reached out to me and said, bro, those, like, I felt those scenes. And then I've had people that I don't know reaching out on Twitter, Instagram, DM messages, comments saying that they believed Henry. Like people uh talking like Henry, he's an embodiment of loads of different people and scenarios, but that he is a real character. And that was something that I wanted to do. So everything that I was going through was secondary to me. And I just like I put that stuff aside. So even though they attempted to lynch Henry as the character, I had to go through that and experience that. And that's why in that scene I'm fighting so hard. I've watched it back and I've seen where I tried to kick one of the guys as it's being pulled up and around the character's neck, because I wanted, when anyone watched that, and that my ancestors, I felt like they were warriors. Like they wasn't just taking this lying down. They gave their blood, sweat, and tears and fought to the last breath. And that's how I felt filming those moments. And then there were days when I cried, like not from a scene, just the intensity of what I was experiencing, thinking of what our people were going through at that time, the aggressive hatred towards us for the color of our skin. And they've given their blood, sweat, and tears so that I can essentially be on a set and act and have the freedom to be able to do that. My grandparents, all these things were going through my head. My grandparents came to the UK as part of the Windrush era, which is a great migration within itself, of a mass exodus of people from the Caribbean coming to the UK and then going to America and Canada, um, in search of a better opportunity for themselves, but really they were setting up future generations. So that's how I felt as the character. He was moving there essentially to protect his wife, but also to give his children an opportunity that wasn't possible under Jim Crow. So all these things were going through my mind, and then just my family are from the Caribbean, as I said, and there's generational trauma from things that have happened that I believe is passed down from parents to children, and that process has happened since slavery, which has taken place in America for a long time and taken place in the Caribbean for a long time. And I'm experiencing all, I feel like, these emotions and these, yeah, this feeling, but then I'm having to experience it on the set. But the number one thing I told myself was, it's not about me, it's about this character, it's about delivering this part to the best of my ability with the work and the whatever talent level I've been blessed with. I need to work even more to make sure that I could deliver the part authentically, because also this is going to live on screen forever. This is here to stay. So I just want to make that was my thing. That's what I wanted to do.
Well, I should have started with it. It is a really tremendous performance. You are just amazing. The things that you're
Thank you.
portraying. I mean, obviously, I am not a Black American, but I feel that pain as a father. I feel that angst and that drive that Henry had to be able to provide for his family against so many external circumstances that I don't experience today. But I still related to that character.
Mm.
So it's you conveyed that beautifully. It's really tremendous performance. There are a lot of difficult scenes in the series, and I don't want to assume that one scene is it was particularly more challenging to film than others. But what was personally for you one of the most difficult things to film?
Um, I think probably the two most, I think the most difficult scenes for me were the uh the roof. There's a scene on the roof. I'm not sure if you've seen that scene.
Yes,
There's a scene
yes,
where Henry's on the roof and the three neighbors approach him, and his daughter is playing, and they approach the house in an intimidating manner.
right.
And the level of panic as the character that I felt in that moment, that was difficult to even keep a lid on,
Mhm.
because Ashley in 2021 wants to react very differently to the Henry of 1953, who almost can't react in an overly aggressive manner, right? It's a different time. Um, it's literally the difference between life and death. So that
Right.
scene was a very difficult scene, because I have to be, but Henry has to be firm, be aggressive, but also calm enough that he's not going to set off the whole neighborhood, and quiet enough that the neighbors can hear what he's saying, but be deterred from antagonizing him anymore, and protect his daughter. The first thing he says is like, Gracie, inside now. And he's panicking, and then cool. He can hear the door. He can hear the door slam. Cool. She's inside. Right. Address the gentleman. Okay, cool. Not too aggressive, but aggressive enough to keep keep them at bay. That was difficult. The other scene that I found really difficult was when he's tied to the chair, um, and the level of again, I can't imagine. Well, I can't, because I was playing, but I would tend to think that is a family member's worst nightmare, to see their kids, two children in their family, be tied to a chair and not be able to protect them in that moment, which has already happened to him previously in the series in North Carolina. Um, and then it's happening again. So he's tied to the chair and they're being aggressive to his kids. The pleading element of that, of just let my kids go, keep me, just protect the kids. So that was very difficult to play. I had so much rage inside me from the character, um, what the character had gone through, um, possibly mixed with some of the microaggressions that I've experienced just in life. I was so enraged in that scene. Like, I broke two chairs. I know the scene keeps
Wow.
me tied to the chair, but and I'm not Superman. Do you know what I mean? But I was
Yeah.
tied to the chair really tight, and I remember ripping off the arms off the chair and be able to get up to fight. And
Wow.
then it was like that. Everyone in the crew was like looking like, whoa, okay, we'll tie you up again, tied me up again, boom, ripped off the chair again. It was just, I think any man, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. If your daughters are there and these guys are attacking you, I think somehow you're going to want to muster up the strength to be able to protect them. And that's how I felt in that moment. I really felt like Melody and Shadi were my daughters, were like Gracie Jean and Ruby, were my, and I had to get off this chair. That's what I had to get off this chair. And then we had to, you know, it's essentially is acting. So there's gonna have to be a level of, I told them just tie me super tight, so it's almost impossible to get off. And then we managed to get some takes that worked, where chair and the rope could withstood the pulling and the restraint.
There's a
So those
scene.
those sorry, those are the two scenes. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's a scene. Sorry to interrupt you, but there's a scene. Without giving away any spoilers, there's a scene in the last episode where Henry is in a theater and he's watching what I'll call the cat in the bag sequence. You know, tell me where you were emotionally in that sequence, because the cat in the bag sequence, I don't know if you're aware, but that's the one that's a notorious thing here in the States. People get to episode 5 and that's your litmus test. You either stop it or you keep going, and you make it through the end of it. But that it's an incredibly difficult sequence. But trying to inhabit the mind and the space of Henry at that moment, watching that scene, reliving that scene, which is something he didn't see but he's heard about. Right? Tell me about being in that headspace while you're in that sequence.
I shot that scene because we shut down because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, and I was in Los Angeles, and I was experiencing a lot of emotions for real in my life, because I was seeing, I'd seen George Floyd been murdered, and I'd seen an outpouring of emotion from the Black community, then also all the other communities coming together to support Black community in a way that I hadn't seen before. I saw um, protests taking place. This is all during the like when the pandemic had shut down everything and we had shut down production. And I went out and was protesting peacefully, and could feel I could feel the togetherness, but I could also feel the pain that everyone was experiencing around the world. I could see back home, because I was still in America. I could see back home in the UK how much people had been affected, because we've had um, Black men, innocent Black men, killed um, by either the police or citizens who aren't the police. So a man was killed called Stephen Lawrence. He was killed while waiting at a bus stop with his friend, and this happened throughout my. This happened when I was really young, and the case took, I want to say the case took 18 years to even to get a conviction. And then there was riots in London because a man called Mark Duggan was shot down by the police as well. Innocent man shot down by the police, murdered by the police. And there was riots in London when that happened. And then I'm experiencing George Floyd in America. So all this has been a buildup of all these things just throughout my life that everyone else is seeing. I'm not special in that way. Everyone else is seeing these things and experiencing these things. And and then I had to go and shoot this scene like afterwards. So I saw there was a video of I saw a video of a man, and he was a grown man, big man, like big American man, like tall, strapping, looks similar to me. And he was in a video talking to, I think, either his son or his little brother, and he was crying, saying, "See, I just don't. It's such emotional like material. It's just even I gotta like keep a lid on it. But it's just he was crying, talking to his son, saying, "Listen, man, you guys gotta find a way to 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 make this stop, and we need to find a way to fight out of this." And he was crying and he was enraged. And I watched that scene I watched that clip maybe a few days before I shot the scene, and I just said to myself, when I shoot this scene, I have to deliver everything as me as just Ashley, black man. I have to deliver that feeling that we all feel when we've had enough. That level of rage and that explosion, like in that moment when he sees his wife being attacked, he's just been attacked by these gentlemen in his house in front of his daughters. Um, his boss has been antagonizing him and trying to hold him down, and he's experienced Jim Crow. He's experiencing racist police officer. He's experiencing all these things as the character, and I know it's acting, but I just wanted to make sure that if anyone saw it, they would feel like that's the level of rage
Mhm.
to have that we have against the oppression. Um, and that's I hope that explains the headspace that I was in. I was just the world was just in such a place, and that was feeding into the character. Um, yeah, it was yeah. It's a yeah. It's hard to answer in one question, and sometimes I don't have the words to even articulate it in the way that in the way that I would like to, because it's hard to even be calm, and it has an emotional effect on you as well, and then explain how you're feeling. And these are things that are affecting me, but affecting so many people. um so it's fine balance between acting and what you're experiencing in real life, and then taking that with you to the set, and then having to del- deliver that as the character. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and that's just how I was feeling. I was just going through a range of emotions um at the time. And yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
how I
mean,
felt.
I can't imagine being an actor and going through this material, and the performance again is tremendous, and it's all right there on the screen. But I can't imagine going through that and reliving all of that, not only your history but your family's history, your friends' history, and just the whole history of the black experience, going through that, channeling through you in that moment. It just must have been just incredible. My last question for you is: the series ends on a question, right? I mean, again, I'm not giving any spoilers away, and you certainly don't have to reveal your thoughts on this, but do you know, do you have an idea in your head what happens to the Emory family after this series is completes?
I hope they survive.
Mhm. Yep.
Without giving too much. I just hope they survive.
Right.
And it's an anthology series, and it it it, it doesn't go further
Right.
at this time. The next season is a departure, I think. Without, I'd have to you'd have to speak to LM, speak to Little Marvin, who's
Right.
the show's creator.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just hope they survive, and that's what I hope for uh, the Emory family. But that has been a characteristic or at the center of the Black experience a lot of the time in America, in particular, around the world, of a story of survival. Um, so I hope they survive. And what I hope people take away from the series is that, just understanding what people have gone through, and um, and have a sense of understanding and compassion when after watching it, and know that although we as a global community have, have come a long way, we've still got a lot further to evolve in order to solve a lot of the problems of social injustice and um, equality, and coming together as just as people, and that we lead. I've said this before, it's just that we lead with our moral compass, and that we're not solely relying on the law to protect us and guide us, because laws change. And um, yeah, we got to lead with our moral compass and do what's right. Just everyone, just do what the right thing is, and yep, and put yourselves in the other people's shoes, and that's not just a this show is specifically about the Black experience. So that to me is first and foremost. But then there are other people who feel different to the rest, and that we need to put ourselves in each other's shoes. So survival, mate. That's what I want. I hope that the Emory family survive. But listen, man, I just want to thank Little Marvin. Just use every platform I can to just thank Little Marvin for even creating this character that
Mhm.
I could play, and thank my co-stars as well, who all, I'm getting a lot of praise for the performance and stuff, but that's impossible for me to deliver that type of performance without Deborah opposite me, who also delivers an incredible performance, and uh, my co-stars, my two girls that played my daughters,
Sure.
and Jeremiah Burkett, who I played opposite, and PJ, who played my boss.
Mhm.
They helped, and Derek Phillips. Everyone together in the scenes was what makes the scenes like great scenes, and what everyone is responding to, and what looks so realistic. So while I am thankful on that, the rest of the cast was what made everything tick, and the directors, and Little Marvin's writing, and the costume, everything's tied in on this project. And I think that's what it takes to make a great project. Everything needs to align. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
Absolutely. All of those elements have come together to make such a brilliant piece of art.
Yeah,
Ashley, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking through this. I'm talking to Deborah next week, so I have a lot to go
oh
through with her as well. So I can't wait for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
All right.
love, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care and stay
All right,
safe.
listen, have a good day. Take care. All right,
All right.
bye.
Bye bye.